July 31, 1944, 6:12 a.m. near Avranches, France. The morning fog still clings to the hedgerows when the ground begins to tremble. At first it feels distant, like a storm rolling in from the Atlantic. Then the sound sharpens, engine growls, metallic clatter, the unmistakable rhythm of tank tracks chewing into wet French soil. A German infantry lieutenant lowers his binoculars and freezes. Across the narrow country road, through a break in the bocage, a line of American tanks is emerging from the mist. One becomes three become 10, then more. Their olive-drab hulls loom like moving walls. White stars flash across their turrets. Shermans, someone mutters behind him. Just Shermans. The same tanks German commanders had laughed at for years. Now they are everywhere. Only weeks earlier, in a chateau outside Caen, officers of the Wehrmacht had stood over maps and wine glasses, trading jokes about American armor. Thin-skinned, undergunned, easy prey. The Panther was a predator, the Tiger was a monster, the Sherman, they said, was a toy. Colonel Hermann von Oppelm-Bronikowski, veteran of the Eastern Front, had seen Soviet T-34s burn through German formations. He knew what real armor looked like, and the Sherman, with its high profile and 75 gun, did not impress him. "They will burn like matches," one staff officer said. The room had laughed. German intelligence estimated that even if the Americans landed successfully, their tanks would bottleneck in Normandy's narrow roads and hedgerows. A few well-placed Panthers, some 88 guns, the Americans would be contained. Bled, broken, then pushed back into the sea. That was the theory. Now the theory is dying in the fog. The first Sherman crests the dirt embankment and turns onto the road. Its suspension rocks gently as it rolls forward. The commander stands half exposed in the turret, goggles pulled low, scanning the fields. Behind it comes another and another. By the time the German lieutenant realizes what he's seeing, more than 30 tanks are pushing through the countryside in a column that seems to stretch forever. The radio crackles at his side. Enemy armor breaking through south of Coutances, multiple columns, unable to contain. The lieutenant swallows. This is not a reconnaissance force. This is a flood. 3 days earlier, on July 28, 1944, General George S. Patton had taken command of the newly activated U.S. Third Army. Patton did not believe in slow advances. He believed in movement, in speed, in violence. While German commanders were still repositioning after the collapse of Operation Cobra, Patton was already rolling. He unleashed 7 armored divisions and dozens of infantry regiments. Through a gap, the Luftwaffe no longer had the fuel to bomb, and the Wehrmacht no longer had the men to hold. The breach at Avranches became a gateway, and through that gateway poured steel. Thousands of Shermans. Inside a German command bunker near Rennes, Field Marshal Gunther von Kluge studies a situation map covered in red pins. Every pin is an American unit. Every hour more appear. He turns to his operations officer. "Where are our armored reserves?" The answer comes quietly. "Scattered, Herr Feldmarschall. The Panthers of the 2nd Panzer Division are still refueling. The Tigers of Schwer Panzerabteilung 503 are stuck near Caen. We cannot concentrate them in time." Kluge's jaw tightens. The Americans are not waiting. They are racing. Back on the road, the German lieutenant orders his men to prepare an ambush. A single 75 anti-tank gun is dragged into position behind a stone wall. They wait until the lead Sherman is less than 300 meters away. Fire! The gun recoils violently. The shell slams into the Sherman's front plate. Sparks fly. The tank keeps moving. The gun crew reloads, fires again. The second round punches through the track and throws the tank sideways into a ditch. Smoke pours from the engine deck. But now the Shermans are turning their turrets. And there are too many of them. A 75 round explodes into the stone wall. Another lands in the hedgerow. Dirt, rock, and bodies scatter. Machine guns rake the roadside. The ambush collapses in seconds. The lieutenant runs. Behind him, the column never slows. German tank doctrine had always centered on quality over quantity. The Tiger I, with its 88 gun and nearly impenetrable frontal armor, could destroy a Sherman at over 2,000 meters. The Panther's long-barreled 75 could punch through Allied armor with surgical precision. On paper, one Tiger was worth 5 Shermans. In reality, the Americans had 5 Shermans everywhere. They did not need to win every duel. They just needed to keep moving. And they did. On July 30, Patton's spearheads reached the outskirts of Avranches. By July 31, they were already fanning out across Brittany. Columns of Shermans rolled through villages that had not seen German vehicles for weeks. French civilians stood in doorways, stunned, waving tricolor flags they had kept hidden for 4 years. The tanks did not stop. They did not pause. They flowed. From Saint-Malo to Reims, from Nantes to Le Mans, German rear area units found themselves suddenly on the front line. Supply depots were overrun. Headquarters were captured. Convoys were ambushed from every direction. German commanders had prepared for a battle of positions. What they faced instead was a war of movement. In a Château-Bwag, near Falaise, Major General Rudolf von Bunau listens as reports stack up faster than his staff can record them. American armor here, American armor there, breakthroughs everywhere. He removes his glasses and rubs his eyes. This is impossible, he says. But it is happening. The Sherman they mocked is not trying to fight the Tiger. It is driving around it. It is cutting roads, severing rail lines, encircling divisions, turning entire German corps into prisoners. And somewhere to the east, near the town of Mortain, German commanders are gathering what remains of their armored strength for a final gamble. A counterattack. One last attempt to cut Patton's supply lines and throw the Americans back into Normandy. They believe still that German steel can stop American momentum, that Panthers and Tigers can crush the Shermans head-on. They are about to find out what happens when speed becomes a weapon, and when mockery turns into panic, because the tanks they laughed at are no longer advancing. They are surrounding, and the trap is about to snap shut. August 7, 1944, 1:45 a.m. near Mortain, France. The night explodes without warning. Flashes rip through the darkness as German Panthers surge forward from the tree line. Their engines roar like beasts unchained. The first shells slam into American positions with concussive force, tossing dirt and steel into the air. Operation Luttich has begun. This is Hitler's last throw of the dice in Normandy. The German plan is simple in concept and desperate in execution. 7 panzer divisions will strike west from Mortain toward Avranches. If they reach the coast, they will cut Patton's supply corridor in half and trap Third Army deep inside Brittany. For a moment in the opening hours, it almost works. American outposts are overrun. Forward units are driven back. Panthers punch through thin lines of infantry and push down narrow roads lit only by burning vehicles. In Berlin, Hitler is told that the counteroffensive is succeeding. But no one tells him what is waiting beyond the first ridge. At Hill 317, a small American observation post sits above the battlefield. From here, artillery spotters can see every movement on the roads below. When the German tanks appear in the darkness, Sergeant George Barth reaches for the radio. Enemy armor moving west, large formation, multiple columns. The reply comes instantly. Hold the hill, all guns inbound. Within minutes, the sky begins to scream. American artillery opens fire from miles away. Shells crash down into the German advance, turning roads into rivers of flame. Panthers are rocked sideways. Half-tracks disintegrate. Infantry scatter into the fields. But the German armor keeps coming. They have orders from Hitler himself. Advance at all costs. Just after dawn, the clouds break, and the Americans appear in the sky. P-47 Thunderbolts dive out of the sun like steel hawks, rockets screaming from their wings. The first strike slams into a column of German tanks trapped on a narrow road. Fireballs erupt one after another. A Panther's turret is blown clean off. A Tiger burns from stem to stern. The road becomes a graveyard. German radio operators scream for air cover. There is none. The Luftwaffe is gone. On the ground, Patton is already moving. He has been waiting for this moment. The German counterattack is not a threat. It is an opportunity. While German armor lunges west toward Avranches, Patton swings his own armored corps east. Like a door slamming shut. At his headquarters near Laval, Patton stands over a map with his chief of staff, Major General Hobart Gay. Red arrows mark German movement. Blue arrows mark American armor. Patton stabs his finger at the German spearhead. They've put their head in a noose, he says. Now we pull. Orders fly out across the radio network. XV Corps turns north. XX Corps pivots east. XIX Corps drives south. The trap begins to close. German commanders soon realize the truth. Their offensive has stalled. Their supply columns are burning. And American tanks are appearing on roads they thought were secure. Near Ardennes, a battalion of Panthers runs straight into a column of Shermans moving at full speed. The German tanks open fire first. 2 Shermans erupt in flame. A third is disabled. But the Americans do not stop. They fan out. They flank. They swarm. 1 Sherman distracts from the front. Another races around the hedgerow. A third punches around into the Panther's thin side armor. The German tank explodes. Then another. Then another. The road belongs to the Americans. This is not the kind of war the Wehrmacht trained for. Their doctrine is built on deliberate movement, coordinated formations, and carefully timed strikes. Patton's war is chaos. Columns move day and night. Tank crews eat on the move. Engines are rarely shut down. Vehicles are repaired on the roadside and sent straight back into the fight. American logistics keeps the momentum alive. Fuel trucks follow every armored spearhead. Ammunition convoys run nonstop. Replacement tanks roll straight from the ports onto the battlefield. The Sherman is not a masterpiece of engineering. It is a masterpiece of production. And now that production is strangling the German army. On August 12, American forces reach Aachen. On August 13, they reach Ardennes. On August 14, they are driving toward Falaise. The jaws are closing. Inside the pocket, nearly 100,000 German troops are trapped. Panzer divisions, infantry corps, entire regiments that once held the line in Normandy now find themselves boxed in by tanks they once mocked. Shermans block every road. Shermans control every crossroads. Shermans ring the pocket like steel wolves. German soldiers abandon vehicles and flee on foot through fields and forests. Others try to break out under cover of darkness. They run straight into American armor. At night, Sherman crews fire blindly into the tree lines, their tracers carving glowing arcs through the darkness. Flares light the sky like artificial moons. The pocket burns. The air stinks of fuel, cordite, and death. And still the Shermans keep coming. In a farmhouse near Chambois, Lieutenant General Paul Hauser, commander of 7th Army, listens as his staff reports the collapse. No fuel. No ammunition. No air cover. No escape. He removes his cap and stares at the table. The Americans have done it, he says quietly. They have surrounded us. But even now, German columns are still trying to break through. Thousands of vehicles are racing east in a final desperate attempt to escape the encirclement. They believe that if they can just outrun the Americans, they might survive. They are about to learn that the Shermans are already waiting. Because on the road to Falaise, the killing ground has been prepared. And when the pocket finally closes, the German army in the west will be shattered forever. August 18, 1944, 4:30 a.m. outside Chambois, France. The sky is still black when the column reaches the crossroads. German trucks, half-tracks, horse carts, staff cars, tanks, all jammed together in a river of steel and desperation. Engines idle, men whisper, someone smokes with shaking hands. They have been driving all night. They believe this is the gap. The last road out of the pocket. Then the first flare goes up. It hangs in the sky like a white sun. And the world turns into fire. American artillery crashes down in a wall of explosions. Shells rip through the packed column, vehicles flip, fuel trucks erupt, horses scream, men scatter into the ditches. From the tree line, the Shermans open fire. Their guns flash in the darkness. Tracers cut glowing lines through the smoke. Machine guns rake the road. The German escape route vanishes in seconds. This is the Falaise pocket. And it is closing. For days, the German 7th Army and 5th Panzer Army have been trying to outrun the encirclement. Columns move only at night, hiding in forests and villages during the day to avoid American fighter-bombers. But the roads are choked. Every bridge is destroyed. Every crossroads is contested. And everywhere they turn, there are Shermans. On the ridge overlooking Chambois, Polish armor from General Stanislaw Maxek's 1st Armored Division digs in alongside American units. Their Sherman Fireflies, armed with British 17-pounder guns, cover the last escape corridor. From here, they can see the entire valley. A sea of German vehicles trying to flee. They wait until the road is full. Then they open fire. Below them, German officers scream for order. Units are mixed together. SS troops fight beside Luftwaffe ground crews. Infantry cling to the backs of tanks. Wounded men lie in the ditches, begging for help. A Panther tries to force its way through the wreckage. A Sherman Firefly fires. The round punches through the Panther's turret and exits the other side. The tank burns where it stands. The road is blocked again. This is no longer a battle. It is a slaughter. American and Polish artillery pound the pocket day and night. Thunderbolts dive repeatedly, turning convoys into infernos. The ground shakes constantly. The dead are everywhere. So many that there is no time to bury them. So many that the living drive around them. German soldiers who once laughed at the Sherman now curse its name. It is not the tiger that hunts them. It is not the Panther. It is the endless columns of medium tanks that never stop coming. They block roads. They cut forests in half. They seal every crossing. They appear in places German maps still mark as safe. The tank they dismissed has become a wall. On August 19, Canadian and Polish forces finally link up with American units at Chambois. The pocket is sealed. Inside are more than 50,000 German troops. They are trapped. General Dwight D. Eisenhower arrives at the front days later. He walks among the wreckage. Destroyed tanks line the roads for miles. Burned trucks, smashed artillery, dead horses still harnessed to wagons. The smell is overwhelming. He turns to his aide. The destruction is beyond anything I've ever seen. This is what Patton's breakout has done. This is what the Sherman has made possible. By August 21, the Falaise pocket is finished. Roughly 10,000 Germans are dead. More than 50,000 are captured. Hundreds of tanks and thousands of vehicles are destroyed. The German army in France is no longer an army. It is a shattered remnant. But Patton is not slowing down. Even as the pocket closes, his Shermans are already pushing east. Across the Seine, toward Paris, toward the German border. The chase has begun, and the men who once mocked American armor are now running from it. Because the Sherman is no longer a joke. It is the machine that broke the Wehrmacht in the West, and its engines are still roaring. August 25, 1944, 9:40 a.m. outside Paris, France. The road into the capital is lined with people. French civilians climb onto burned-out German trucks and wave flags that haven't seen daylight since 1940. Women cry. Men embrace American soldiers as they roll past on the backs of tanks. At the front of the column, a Sherman slows to a crawl. The commander stands in the turret, staring at the city. Paris is free. And the tank the Germans once laughed at has brought the war to their doorstep. But for Patton, there is no time to celebrate. Paris is a symbol. The real prize is east. The German army is broken but not finished. Its survivors are retreating toward the Seine, racing to establish a new defensive line. If they make it across the river in force, the war will slow again. Patton will not allow that. On August 26, 3rd Army surges forward. 4 armored divisions drive day and night, engines screaming, headlights blacked out, guided only by maps, flares, and instinct. Shermans thunder through towns whose names are still marked on German situation maps as secure rear areas. At Chartres, at Troyes, at Reims, German rear guards are brushed aside. Panzer units that should be holding river crossings find American tanks already on the far bank. The retreat becomes a rout. German soldiers stumble east on foot. They abandon tanks with no fuel, artillery with no horses, trucks with no drivers. They burn documents and blow bridges behind them, but the Americans keep finding ways through. Floating bridges appear overnight. Engineers throw pontoon spans across rivers under fire. By the time German commanders believe they have bought time, Shermans are already crossing. In a château à Bwgen near the Seine, Field Marshal Walter Model studies his shrinking map. Model is known as Hitler's fireman, the man sent to stop disasters. Now he is trying to hold a front with an army that no longer exists. He orders every remaining Panther and Tiger to form blocking positions along the river. They dig in on high ground, covering the bridges and fords. This is where German armor is supposed to dominate. This is where the Shermans are supposed to die. Near the town of Melun, the 1st American column reaches the Seine. German Panthers open fire from across the river. The lead Sherman is hit and bursts into flames. The second reverses into cover. The crossing looks impossible. Then the engineers arrive. They work under fire. Bulldozers push earth into the river. Pontoon sections are dragged forward by half-tracks. Smoke shells blanket the far bank. And behind the smoke, more Shermans arrive. Dozens, then hundreds. They line the river bank, guns trained on the German positions. The duel begins. The Panthers fire. The Shermans answer. Some burn. Others keep firing. American artillery joins in. Then fighter-bombers. The German line wavers. A Sherman reaches the far bank. Then another. Then 5. Then 20. By nightfall, Third Army has a bridgehead. The Seine has been crossed. The chase continues. To the east, German commanders send desperate messages to Berlin. The Americans are moving too fast. They cannot be stopped. There are too many tanks. Hitler responds with orders to hold every position. No retreat. No surrender. But there are no men left to obey. At Nancy, Patton's columns collide with the remnants of German armored divisions trying to regroup. A Tiger emerges from a village street and fires at point-blank range. A Sherman explodes. The Tiger reverses. Another Sherman swings around the corner and fires into its side. The Tiger burns. The crew bails out on fire. The duel lasts seconds. This is not the war German tank crews trained for. This is ambush and counter-ambush. Speed versus steel. And speed is winning. By September, Patton's Shermans are on the German frontier. The Siegfried Line looms ahead. Dragon's teeth, concrete bunkers, interlocking fields of fire. The last barrier before the Reich. German propaganda tells its people that the West Wall is impregnable, that no enemy tank can cross it, that the Americans will break against it like waves on rock. German commanders believe it. They are wrong, because the Shermans are already probing the defenses, already finding gaps, already testing the line. And behind them, an industrial empire is still building more. Thousands more. The tank they laughed at has crossed France in weeks. It has crushed their retreat. It has carried the war to Germany's doorstep. And now it is staring at the last wall. But one final test remains. A battle where German armor will make its last stand. A place where tigers and panthers will fight not for victory, but for survival. The Shermans are coming. And this time, the Germans know exactly what that means. September 18, 1944, 6:05 a.m. near Aachen, Germany. The fog hangs thick over the forest. From the German side of the border, the West Wall rises like a scar across the land, concrete bunkers, dragon's teeth, steel obstacles stretching to the horizon. This is the first German city the Americans will take. This is the line that is supposed to stop them. And waiting behind it are the last operational Panther and Tiger battalions in the West. In a bunker overlooking the approaches, Oberst Franz Beck watches through periscope slits as American armor forms up in the tree line. He has fought on the Eastern Front. He has commanded Tigers at Kursk. He knows what German steel can do. But what he sees now is different. Endless Shermans. Their engines rumble like distant thunder. Their turrets slowly traverse, scanning for muzzle flashes. Artillery flashes behind them. This is not an attack. It is an arrival. The American barrage begins at first light. Heavy guns pound the bunkers. Fighter-bombers scream overhead. The forest shakes. Then the Shermans advance. They move in waves. Infantry follows close behind, using the tanks as mobile cover. German anti-tank guns fire from camouflaged pits. The first Sherman erupts in flame. The second loses a track. The third pushes past the wreck and keeps going. The advance does not stop. A Tiger opens fire from a concealed position. Its 88mm gun destroys a Sherman with a single shot. Another fires. A second Sherman burns. But now the American artillery is zeroing in. The Tiger fires again. And then a shell lands directly on its turret. The tank disappears in a column of smoke. The crew never gets out. This is what the Germans did not understand. The Sherman is not fighting alone. It is fighting with artillery, with air power, with logistics, with an entire continent behind it. At a crossroads near Stahlberg, a platoon of Panthers launches a counterattack. They charge through the smoke, guns blazing. 3 Shermans are hit. 1 is knocked out. But the Americans flank. They swarm. A Sherman fires from behind a hedgerow. Another from a farmhouse courtyard. A third from the forest edge. The Panthers are boxed in. One by one they burn. German infantry retreats into the city. Street fighting begins. Shermans push through rubble-strewn avenues, firing point-blank into buildings. Panzerfaust teams emerge from basements and doorways. A Sherman takes a hit to the side and erupts. The crew bails out under fire. Another Sherman rolls forward and crushes the doorway with its tracks. Machine guns rake the windows. The city becomes a furnace. By October, Aachen is surrounded. It is bombarded day and night. German propaganda declares it a fortress. Hitler orders it held at all costs. The garrison fights house to house, room to room. But the Shermans keep advancing. Block by block, street by street. On October 21, Aachen falls. It is the first German city to be captured by the Allies. The West Wall has been breached. The myth is broken. In a chateau at Wagen east of the city, General Hasso von Manteuffel studies the reports. His armored units are shadows. His fuel reserves are gone. His infantry is exhausted. And still the Americans keep coming. He turns to his chief of staff. "They have too many tanks," he says. "We cannot stop them." The Sherman has done what no German commander believed possible. It has crossed France. It has shattered the retreat. It has smashed the West Wall. It has carried the war onto German soil. The tank that was mocked in shade-house salons and staff briefings is now rolling through German streets. And it is not finished. Because one last battle remains. One last gamble. A final attempt by Hitler to reverse the collapse. Deep in the Ardennes forest, where German steel will rise one last time, and where the Shermans will face their greatest test. December 16, 1944, 5:30 a.m. Ardennes Forest, Belgium. Snow falls silently through the trees. The forest is still. Then the artillery begins. German guns erupt across a 100-mile front. Shells crash into American positions, tearing through snow, timber, and steel. The earth shakes, radios die, telephone lines vanish. In the darkness, German infantry moves forward. Behind them, Panthers and Tigers roll. Hitler's last offensive has begun. Operation Wacht am Rhein. The Battle of the Bulge. The final gamble. German commanders believe they can still win if they can split the Allied armies, seize Antwerp, and force a negotiated peace. Once again, they place their faith in steel. Once again, they believe German armor will crush the Shermans head-on. At first, the attack achieves surprise. American units are pushed back. Road junctions fall. Fuel dumps burn. German columns push west through the snow, aiming for the Meuse River. For a moment, it feels like 1940 again. But the Americans adapt. And then the Shermans arrive. At Bastogne, the 101st Airborne is surrounded. German tanks encircle the town. An ultimatum is delivered. Surrender. The answer comes back in one word. Nuts. Outside the perimeter, Shermans fight through snow and ice to break the siege. They push down forest roads under constant fire. Panzerfaust teams ambush them from tree lines. Tigers lurk at road bends. Every mile is paid for in blood. Near St. Vith, a German Panther ambushes an American column. The lead Sherman is destroyed. The second is hit. The road is blocked. German infantry moves in. Then American artillery arrives. Shells tear through the forest. The Panther reverses. A Sherman flanks. A round slams into the Panther's side. The ambush collapses. The column rolls on. At Celles near the Meuse, the German spearhead finally runs out of fuel. Kampfgruppe paper once the tip of the spear is stranded. American Shermans surround the village. They fire into the streets. German tanks burn in the snow. The offensive dies where it stands. By January, the Bulge is erased. The German army has spent its last reserves, its last fuel, its last train crews. The final Panther and Tiger battalions are gone. In a ruined farmhouse, a German officer writes in his diary, "We feared the Tiger would save us. We feared the Panther would save us. But it was the American tank that ended the war in the West." The Sherman did not win by being the best tank. It won by being everywhere. It won by never stopping. It won by turning mockery into defeat. The tank they laughed at. The tank they dismissed. The tank they called a toy. Surrounded them. Outran them. Outproduced them. And crushed the Wehrmacht from Normandy to the Rhine. When the war ends in May 1945, American Shermans sit on the banks of the Elbe. Their engines finally silent. Their crews exhausted. Their journey complete. From the hedgerows of Normandy to the heart of Germany. From ridicule to reckoning. From underdog to conqueror. This was the tank they never took seriously. Until it was too late. End